Notice of this meeting has been provided to the Co-Star, the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar, and the Asbury Park Press on June 1st, 2020, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board and the municipal website. To keep our residents safe and abide by the latest state regulations and CDC information, we are bringing this meeting to you through Zoom. This meeting will run just like any other regular council meeting. You will still be able to comment during the public comment sessions. When the time comes, you will click on the raise hand button and you will be called upon and your microphone will be unmuted at that time, so you may speak. Please remember to state your name and address before you speak. Thank you.
Thank you, April. If everybody could join me in saluting the flag of our great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everybody could just give a moment of silence for our military, their families, first responders, healthcare workers, and William Quackenbush, longtime firefighter, had business in town, passed away yesterday morning. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go in the workshop. One of the things that I want to bring up in workshop, and I'm not sure if everybody's aware, we had the grant from the CARE Act. We had to put a lot of our business administrator, our financial team, everybody had to put a lot of work into trying to get the money for that on everything that we spent for COVID. And I'm happy to say that we were awarded $296,000, which covers a lot of the stuff that we had to put out for the COVID. So I'm going to let our business administrator, Ed Kirschenbaum, talk about that a little bit more.
Thank you, Mayor. In working with Monmouth County, the Freeholder Director, Tom Arnone, and his staff out in the county, our finance team here in Belmar, everything that we spent with COVID, including additional personnel that were called in because of COVID, overtime, PPE, protective gear for our staff, changes that we made to our buildings, we put in the amount of $296,000, which we received a check yesterday. So we were covered for everything that we did to prepare for COVID-19, and the county worked with their administration to make sure that everything was above board. Our documentation was in place, and that we were able to recoup all the monies that we spent. We have another round of expenses that we're putting in for within the next few weeks. We'll send that into the county, and we'll then again be reimbursed for what expenses occur for COVID-19.
Thank you. And also, we're working on right now for our business community. There's another part of the CARE Act that there's an application coming out on July 20th, I believe, that we're going to make sure that all our businesses are aware of. It's a maximum of $10,000. It's also coming from the county. Director Freeholder Tom Arnone is leading the charge on it, and he's going to get our businesses and all the Monmouth County businesses some money for all the expenses they incurred. So we're going to be working with our businesses really hard, and we really thank our freeholders for working with us to get all this money covered, get all this covered. Ed, do you have anything else on COVID before we move on?
Our team continues to be in place on the beachfront. Of course, there's been changes in executive orders signed by the governor regarding masks, that we're looking at some procedures, as well as indoor dining with a certain percentage of doors that have to be open. I'm working with Chief Scott on that. So there's a bunch of things that we're looking at. Like I said, COVID changes hour by hour, day by day, and we continue to get the executive orders from the governor's office. Our task force on the beach continues to work with the social distancing, and of course, with the caveat of the outdoor dining, we're making sure that everybody's in compliance.
Okay. Thank you. And the governor has put out about, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what this is all about. He put that if you can't social distance, you have to have a mask. You have to be wearing a face covering. So we're not sure if that includes, like, if you're sitting too close on the beach, you're allowed to do that and have face coverings on. So we're trying to get some clarification on that. So as soon as we get that, we'll put it out on our website and social media. I think that's all we have, right, on that. All right, the other thing that I want to bring up that a lot of the council members wanted to talk about before it comes up to a vote is the transfer of the liquor license from Jack's Tavern over to the Beach House Brewery. We have Captain Cox on with us tonight, and he's going to explain. He did all the transfer work along with Ryan DeLeo, our business administrator, as far as occupancy levels and how they come up with that, and how we're moving, if we're going to move forward with that. So, Captain Cox, if you just chime in and explain to the council about the occupancy levels, or maybe Ryan DeLeo can. Captain Cox, you on? Yeah.
It says yes.
Ryan, you on?
Tom doesn't have video.
Isn't that video?
Can you hear Captain Cox?
Captain Cox, you there?
Can you hear Captain Cox?
Yes.
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just explain to the council how the occupancy levels came about and how you went through the investigation and where we're at with, we have the transfer on tonight, so the council
Yes.
members had some questions on it.
Yeah, the occupancy levels were determined, by the fire marshal. He just renewed all those, or reviewed them and update them to the proper levels. The transfer, they gave us some seating charts for the first floor, second floor, which will house the restaurant. First floor will be a bar area. And then you have the existing tap room on the second floor, along with the larger tasting room. So all those occupancy levels were set in place at one time when that restaurant was open. And all the occupancy levels were just recently redone by the fire marshal. So all those are up to date for the transfer.
Did they change from what they have now? Do we know that?
I believe they are similar to what they were when they were first done by the fire marshal.
Okay. Ryan, if you could add anything to that? Our fire marshal says he's on, right? Well, if we're waiting, any of the council members have any questions for Captain Cox on anything that's on the resolution to?
Captain Cox.
Yes.
Hi, Jim McCracken here.
Hey.
Just a question here. We got the floor plans with us for the in conjunction with the resolution, which makes this a lot easier. But one question is, it says in B, first floor bar area is 97. So when we're talking about the first floor, that's at the street level?
Correct. That was that's where the retail space was. And they had retail in there. I guess you could also purchase items. And then at some point it was made into a tasting room. And yes, that will be a bar on that first floor with that occupancy.
And then the second floor restaurant, that's where that restaurant used to be, that separate area that you just described for a while.
Yes, that was, I think, Mizuto's at one time. And that occupancy, I think, didn't change. I think it's the same number.
All right. And then that second floor brewery tap room, that includes the room in the back as well as the area up in front, like where that the original tasting area was. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the fire marshal actually divided it up into two different occupancies, one for the second floor tasting room and one for that large room.
Right.
So should be 4 total that he issued for both the
I
first and
think in the
second floor.
resolution, it's listed as one number, but that's okay. My question was, there's an outside deck there and there's no separate occupancy listed for that deck. Is that included in that number, the outside seating area on that second floor also?
Yes, I believe when I spoke to Ryan DeLay, the fire marshal, that number there does include the outside deck area.
All right. Thank you.
Tom Carvelli here, Captain Cox. One quick question that I have is, are all of these spaces intended to be dining areas?
From the understanding I have from the owners, you'll have the dining area in the bar. You'll have, a bar set up on the first floor with some dining, some tables. You'll have the tasting room on the second floor, and then that larger room could accommodate a function, whether it's a function through them or a private function is what they normally utilize that area for.
Okay, so I mean, during regular business hours, if there's no function there, will that room be set up with tables for dining, or will it be closed? Maybe you don't get into this level of detail. I guess I'm just wondering what their intended use of that event, quote unquote, space would be when there's no event.
Yeah, I would have to ask the owner that one. Let's say that second floor restaurant area is completely full. Are there plans to utilize that room for extra seating? That I would have to ask him if that was, what he anticipates.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? I just got a couple of questions for our borough attorney, Jerry. Jerry, on R of this, do you have a copy of it in front of you?
Which is that, the floor plans?
No, on the whole resolution to transfer it.
Yes, I do.
Okay. On R, where it talks about a club, is that the language that we would want in there to make sure that it doesn't turn into anything bigger than a restaurant?
Well, sir, club is not defined in your ordinances. So before we have a disagreement as to what is defined by club, we ought to define it. So
We should define that.
Yes, sir, we should.
Okay.
And I can do that. This only came up late this afternoon, Mayor. I can certainly get some suggestions to you next day or so about that.
Okay. And the other question I have for you is, the building is large, so the liquor license is going in there. Everything that's listed in the resolution is the only area that they could use. They would have to come before planning board or anything like that to get any kind of expanded use. Is that my understanding?
That's correct. I think the captain and chief will confirm that. They gave us 4 plans and told us where the liquor will be. Yes, sir.
So the floor plans will be attached to that, and that's all they'll be able to use.
That's correct, sir.
All right. And yeah, I think from my understanding is the occupancy level limits that are there now have always been there. They've been approved by the planning board when they went to the brew pub and the tasting room and all of that. So I don't think any of that has changed. I don't know if I know Joel is on here, so if he wanted to chime in, we'd let him just speak to the council for a minute.
Raise this.
Yeah, he's got his hand up.
I don't know if I could be heard right now.
Here
Yeah,
we
how
are.
you doing? How you doing?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, short answer, Mayor. Yes, the occupancy levels and the arrangement of all the seating areas and restaurant areas, everything else is the same as it was from the beginning approval and the additional approval of the first floor.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the council have questions for the owner? Okay, go ahead.
Counselor, since a revision is required to this already to define club in section R, there's just one other thing, since you're working on this, I think would help me understand it better. So in B, we have 3 distinct areas defined. We have first floor bar area, second floor restaurant, and second floor brewery tap room. If you look in G, where it talks about live music, the live music, it says live music in the inside bar dining area. But B doesn't talk about an inside bar dining area. So I just think the language in G should be consistent with what we use in B to further understand and clarify where music is permitted.
Thank you, Councilman. I think this is not, I will speak with the chief in the morning and the captain to verify what it should be, and then we'll get back to April right away.
Jared, do you think we table this for tonight and then put it on for the next meeting? Or do you think that we put it through with amendments that are going to be happening?
April, is it an issue if we carry this for, in terms of ABC, if we carry it for 30 days or next meeting?
No, there's no issue with ABC. It's just with the applicant.
Well, I don't want to inconvenience anyone. The first time I saw this was late this afternoon. Mayor, can we keep going with the meeting and let me look at this a little more closely?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to come up for a vote for a few minutes here, but I actually have one other question as well, because I think the way that I read this, and I just want to get some feedback on that, is that there could conceivably be live music simultaneously in 3 separate rooms. Is that an accurate reading? And then I guess, is that something that we want to consider as well? Because, the way in each individual room, they could have separate, music playing per item G.
I think, Councilman, and I don't want to speak for the chief, but you certainly can approve this and condition it upon where you want the band to be. I mean, if it's only inside, outside, whatever it is, so you can do that this evening.
Okay. Yeah, I think just the way it's written, that could be something that occurs. And the question is that something that we want, or do we want to say, like, yes, you can have live music, all of the same conditions. However, you can't have more than 1 live music. That's more of a question for the other council members, or feedback on what other venues in town do. Do they? The one that's coming to mind is Anchor Tavern. They have a back room and a front room. Do they have a band in the front room and then a DJ or something in the back room simultaneously?
I could tell you from experience, they've had that.
Yeah.
My years as a police officer for 25 years, we've dealt with that, where they would have a separate party in the back with music, and then the band in the front for the bar.
Has that ever been an issue or a concern?
Not unless we got noise complaints.
Right.
Joel, you want to address that for a minute?
I can. I don't know if, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the intention is to not have live music outside the four walls.
It says inside the bar. It says inside bar dining area.
Right. So basically what we have is we have a downstairs bar area that also, has access to food now, or will have access to food. And then upstairs, there's a sit-down restaurant, and then the open space, which is actually currently the brewery tasting room. So generally, if there was music, there might be music up in that upstairs area. But to the councilman's point, there could be a situation where the restaurant has a rehearsal dinner for a wedding, and they have an acoustic music playing in there, and maybe some live music in there. But this isn't a club atmosphere. It's a it's a brewery. It's brewery centric. So it's not going to be a thumping kind of noise, and whatever music is going to be contained within the four walls. There's nothing on the deck. That's really the intention, to have some background music from time to time, not all the time.
Okay. Thanks, Joel. And one other question while we have you on the line. Can you just address the question that I asked about the big room at the back of the tasting room, which I guess can be used for events? What is the intended use when there is not an event there?
Sure. I mean, in general now, if you've ever visited the brewery, it's more of a communal room where people, go up and have the various tastings of beer, and now they'll have access to other things like wine and things like that for those who don't like beer. But the idea would be that that room would be accessible to everyone to have casual food. Whereas in the long term, probably the restaurant will be more of a sit-down dining experience. Outside there, we'll have a little food to accompany whatever beverages people desire. Generally, it's going to be beer-centric and going to be more of a, kind of very, very casual, the picnic table setup that we have now. That seems to be what everybody likes. It's kind of interesting. And so they'll have the ability to sit there and bring food to the tables as well.
Thanks. I think I've been there before.
I've seen you maybe once or twice.
But only once or twice.
The reason I asked that question earlier about G versus B is because the way I read G, music would only be allowed in the first floor bar area and the second floor restaurant, and not in the second floor brewery and tap room, because G reads inside bar / dining area. Does not say that it would be allowed in the second floor brewery and tap room. So I think we would want these sections to be consistent, particularly if you're planning like a wedding reception or something.
I agree with you, Councilman. I think the intention would be to have music available, as we need for events and for, just casual atmosphere upstairs. And again, it's a very, very well-constructed building, if you will. It's a fortress. Very little sound leaves that building at all. And we're not intending to put any live music on the deck or outdoors or anything like that. So, I think it's a pretty good concept that, there might be an opportunity to provide, music at different times in different rooms, but certainly it wouldn't be heard outside.
I know also that sometimes you have local businesses that may have live music up in that second floor brewery tap room that would have more than 3 pieces. Are you looking to continue those types of events? And if so, how would they move forward? Would you apply for a special event, have to apply for a special event for something like that? I know I've been there before where, groups of kids are performing and that type of thing, which is always a nice event, but they're going to be more than 3 pieces.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because we were trying not to, be too cumbersome on the regulations here and treat that as a special event, but I wasn't sure why there was a 3-piece restriction. It seemed to be a carryover from Jack's Tavern, which is obviously a smaller venue, but you're right, Councilman, we encourage the school the music school to bring their band and everything else. And I don't really feel like it's an imposition on the town. The music doesn't really play outside the walls, like I said. So if there were some modifications that could be done, we'd like you to consider that as well. Again, it's not it's not intended to be a thumping rock band kind of, or club at all. But, but from time to time, as you can imagine, most bands are more than 3 pieces, maybe 4 or 5 pieces.
Joel, would it be an inconvenience for you if we table this and then tighten it up for the next meeting?
Not terribly. Obviously, we've been waiting a little bit, and it's been, a tedious investigation, everything else, and we understand that and everything going on. But so if it couldn't be accommodated tonight, it wouldn't be the worst thing for us. But if you could accept some input from us and help us, and we could help you guide some of the language a little bit, if that's the direction you'd like to take, then we'll live with it, of course.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I had one thing. I'm not going to vote on this because I don't vote on any ABC actions in town, because as a professional musician, I've played at some of the licensed places in town. And I can definitely tell you that if the 3-piece limitation was in Jack's license, it was not adhered to, at least not by my 5-piece band. We never heard a thing about it. But one thought that occurs to me, since we're having an issue about what a club is, I think one way to avoid having a club atmosphere, and we could state this if you want, is that you don't put a stage anywhere in the building. Don't define a performance space as that this is where the band plays, because that starts to create your club atmosphere right from there. Just leave it open floor spacing, and depending on your event, you're going to put whoever's playing music wherever you need to put them. And I do agree with Joel. I mean, I've been to some of those events inside there. You can't even hear the band downstairs, let alone outside the building. And they're loud, and you just can't hear them. It must be something about the way the building's built. But yeah, I would suggest that you just avoid putting in any kind of permanent stage or any kind of designated performance area.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Jared, Mr. Dasty, I probably think the best thing would be to do is table it. I think our next meeting is on July 21st. Would you have enough time to go through that language?
Oh, sure, Judge. I shall, Mayor, and I will speak with April and Ed and perhaps even the applicant, and we'll get it straightened out. But I appreciate Tom's comments. Those are good.
Okay. So that's what probably we'll do tonight, April. All right. All right. Anybody else have anything for workshop? All right. So moving on. What are we going to? All right. Petitions. Anybody that has a petition out there that can email it into us or drop it at the mail slot. April, approval of minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 16th meeting.
Motion.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Reports of council. Councilman Carvelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get to my notes here. Let's see. Well, first is the TDRC, the Technical Design Review Committee. We met on June 23rd. We were reviewing the 11th Avenue project. Looks like that might be coming back in front of them. The BBP, they actually met yesterday. I was unable to attend the meeting. I haven't actually gotten an update from them as to what transpired, but hopefully next meeting I'll be able to provide some feedback on that. The planning board is meeting on the 20th. Looks like we have 2 applications coming up. Harbor Commission set to meet next Tuesday. But I'm not actually sure if that's happening. I haven't gotten an agenda or a meeting invite. Let's see. So the only thing that I've really been working on is digging into the budget lately. This being my second time around, I'm really have a better understanding of how the process works and what all the numbers mean. So been rolling up my sleeves and getting into the details and hoping to actually have a meeting this coming week with the CFO and the auditor to go over some of the numbers and get a better understanding of what's happening in the budget. The only other thing, and I guess I should have brought this up during workshop, was at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about South End activity, noise and whatnot. And I was just wondering how things have played out. I guess Councilwoman Juan is not on, but how has the South End been since that weekend that was rough? I guess that's either for the chief or for borough administrator.
I'll speak first. I had the meeting with the South End, and I continue to take calls and emails from residents that do have issues with either noise or any other problems in the town. Working closely with Chief Scott and the police department, they are out there enforcing and answering all those calls. I know Chief Scott has a tally of what has occurred so far, but I'm pleased to report that a lot of the South End problems based on enforcement have been solved, per se, because we continue to have a task force out there handling all the noise, quality of life issues. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Scott for a minute.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. I ran reports today for the last 3 weeks since we went out and did the enforcement over that one weekend in the South End. And for the last 3 weeks, the officers have written 591 borough ordinances, which includes noise, which was at 61. The number for the beachfront violations was 104. I'm sorry, 375. Other ordinances around town violations was 104. And I said the noise was 61. This was the last 3 weeks of enforcement. And I believe the noise complaints are going down because we're out there enforcing it again with the noise car on Friday and Saturday nights. And we also have brought in extra patrols during the day on the beachfront to deal with the crowds and the violations on the beachfront.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I find this report very helpful. I got a lot of good feedback from the last time that you did it. And so thank you very much. This is helpful.
You're welcome. I do have it broken down by the week if you need those numbers as well. I just thought it was easier giving it out as a total number for the 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think that's good. So I don't really have anything else for my report. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman McCracken.
Okay. The Belmar Housing Authority met on Monday. Our virtual meetings continue. There are 4 units that have turned over since our last meeting, and all of those units will be filled by the end of this month. So by the end of July, we will be at 100% occupancy with no vacancies. The engineer, we went out to bid to select an engineer to do a design and draw out specs for a new roof, which is done. And now that will be bid out for a contractor to come in and complete that job. The residents are following social distancing. The Belmar Housing Authority, once COVID-19 hit, increased its cleaning and sanitation schedule. Residents are not congregating in the building. The only congregating is going on outside, again, with distancing. They they're pleased with the way the residents are, following the guidelines they established within the building. And also happy to report that to the best of our housing authority's knowledge, and keep in mind, this is independent housing, we aren't aware of every single person's, personal medical conditions. But to the best of the housing authority's knowledge, there have been no reported cases of COVID-19 in the building. Additionally, and lastly, money has been budgeted to repave and restripe the parking lot. We're looking to see if they can do that with a shared services agreement for with the county. If not, one of 4 quotes that was received will be selected, so the back of the building will look nice and new with a new parking lot and new striping and that kind of thing. The Belmar Shade Tree Commission continues to meet. We were meeting virtually. Last month's meeting was held outside, following social distancing practices. Policies and procedures are being refined and reviewed, as well as the municipal ordinance work continues to go on there. I remind any residents who are listening to this Zoom call and this meeting, if you have a tree that's in the public right of way to be pruned or removed, you need to put in an application. The Shade Tree Commission has a procedure for reviewing that application, along with the experts that we work with together at DPW, and then someone will be getting back to you regarding moving forward. It is very rare circumstances that a tree would be removed and the Shade Tree Commission would not request the homeowner to replace that tree, because we realize the importance of having trees and greenery in our town. This past week, 4 trees were planted, 4 more trees. We had some planted there earlier in the year in Schroeder Park. So they look nice. And it's been brought to the attention of the Shade Tree Commission that there is an additional species of invasive tree in the municipality in certain areas called tree of heaven. I understand when they seed, they can drop up to 3,000 seeds or some crazy high number a day. This tree spreads similar to that of bamboo. We have an ordinance already in town that prohibits any planting of bamboo species on public or private property. And so I spoke with the borough administrator about this, who will be speaking with our attorney who's on this Zoom meeting about looking into this, and if we need any revisions in the ordinance to prevent people planting these type of trees that spread very rapidly, like this tree of heaven, and perhaps any other language in the ordinance that we would need to add, and even recommend in that ordinance the trees that we have, the shade tree recommends being planted in town that we know do well with the type of precipitation and soil climate that we have in town. So, that's something that's concerning some of our homeowners in some parts of town. And, we need to be conscious of the fact that we don't have trees or some kind of species that can grow in an area and spread rapidly and affect other homeowners' properties and that type of thing. And lastly, I'm sure this is no surprise to everybody, this is public information, but the weather's been great. Our beach revenues this year are doing very well, so we're in a healthy space there. And just one question too for Councilman Carvelli, who's on the Budget Committee. In your investigation, I'd be interested to know what the increased labor costs we have in town as a result of the Murphy administration's increase in minimum wage. So I'd just be interested in knowing because, you know, the minimum wage went up this year. So obviously employees got a bump, and I'm just kind of interested to know overall on a municipal level, you know, what that's costing the taxpayers here in town.
Well, while I don't have the figure off the top of my head, I will certainly take a look at it. I've been focused on the general fund so far, but we'll take a look at the beach as well.
All right. Thank you, Councilman McCracken. Council President Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now I have to go Google Tree of Heaven because I need to know what they look like, because I wouldn't be surprised if I have one growing in my yard. Oh my God. I actually don't have that much to report because, yeah, as there hasn't been a Harbor Commission meeting. The Environmental Commission was scheduled to meet tonight, but obviously they canceled because of the council meeting. But I did notice that in today's Coast Star, the chair of the Environmental Commission, Ed Lippincott, was quoted in an article they ran about the state's report that they issued the week before last, addressing climate change, and in particular for us, sea level rise. He spoke very well of it. I mean, there's nothing much good you can say except that we are aware, and there's a growing awareness, and you have to be aware before you can start dealing with the problem. So really the one thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned is I'm still going down with the volunteer friendship force to, you know, encourage social distancing. But to be honest with you, I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, but I think people have been really, really good, especially on the beach. I don't see, the mayor said before about maybe people have to wear masks on the beach if they're closer than 6 feet. My sense is people aren't going to want to do that. People are going to want to keep spread out because they just feel safer that way. And when they're on the boardwalk, I see, you know, sometimes I see people wearing masks. It's about maybe 20%, but there's so much social distancing on the boardwalk because of the way we've set it up that there's really not going to be that much of an issue. You know, it might be for some people who are staying in place. Like if we had benches on the boardwalk and people were sitting on them, we would have to be telling people sitting down they have to wear masks. And I'm thinking we don't have to do that. I mean, they're just going to keep walking, and it's just, I don't see it being a real issue because, again, I don't want to jinx it. It's really, I have been, how to say it? I have been greatly encouraged by people's behavior in as far as them trying to do what makes them feel safe. And I'm really, really glad that they come to Belmar and they feel safe. Again, as Councilman McCracken said, our beach revenues are really not doing bad, definitely not. So we'll see. And we made it through the 4th of July. I was full of trepidation about the 4th of July, and it turned out to be really one of the nicest weekends. I'm spending a lovely time walking up and down the boardwalk, chatting with the police, chatting with the people working at the gates. I see Bruce Blattner every time I'm down there. Great to see him. And it's really been great. And, you know, it's nice to see it. One of the things I liked when I was working at the beach, and I get to feel like I'm doing that, is when people have questions, they want to get answers, and they want to feel like their questions are welcome. And that, I love being able to do that. It's really a lot of fun. So I'm going to keep on doing it. We'll see how it goes. I don't think we're going to have much action this weekend, at least not with the forecast we're seeing. But, you know, it's really, it's working out well. You know, for all the effort that went into making the plan and coming up with the procedures, it's really working well. And that's my report.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm with you. You know, I talked to a lot of people coming off the beach, a lot of neighbors, and they say the same thing. People on the beach are really social distancing. They don't feel uncomfortable that people are sitting right on top of them. And even the boardwalk in the morning, I know during the later part of the day, people don't stay on their side of the boardwalk, but I know in the morning, we know all the walkers out there, the runners, everybody's staying on their side of the boardwalk. So I'm with you. I actually see a lot of that going on. So And the people that have been coming to town are respectful. You know, we haven't had big problems where they're not being disrespectful to people. So, but yeah, I'm with you on that. Just a couple things that I have. We've been working with Verizon on the 5G, looking at different poles to put down on the beachfront. I know it's coming. It's federal and state laws that we have to adhere to. So within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having Verizon in to demonstrate what they have in mind for the beachfront and taking a look at the different things that they want to put down the beachfront, so we make a decision coming up before next year. Other than that, I want to thank the DPW for doing a great job. With the influx of people that we have and the garbage and everything that they have to deal with, they're doing a fabulous job. The kids, even the kids on the beach, our beachfront staff sweeping the boardwalk, making sure the sand's off of it. They're really doing an outstanding job. Police department doing what they need to have done. We got a class of special ones out now, and we got a class of special twos. So we got some extra bodies out there, but you know, they're doing what they need to do. You heard the chief talk about the numbers that they're writing. So they're doing what they need to do to keep everybody in line. And of course, all the borough employees, the borough employees that work inside here, and all of them have been really doing a great job this summer, and we really do appreciate it. So I think that's all I have. We have anything else, Ed? Anything else we're going to bring up?
COVID cases are down. We have 7.
We're down to 7 cases in town. Okay. All right. I think that's it. All right. So we're going to move on to the public session on the resolution items. If anybody has any questions just on the resolution items.
All right, we have one.
Go ahead. You're on.
Just state your name and address, please.
Vicki Renner, 1106 D Street, Belmar.
Hi.
I have a question. When you were talking about the transfer of the license
Yes.
and the space going to be utilized, you mentioned, or someone mentioned there about I think you said the first floor level, which was retail space, which is now going to be dining, someone said. So
I think it's going to be a little bar and dining.
Okay. So my question is, I was told, and I have found very big inconsistencies along Main Street, that did they have to go to the planning board to have it changed from retail now to, you know, instead of like selling clothes, now that it's going to dining. So it's restaurant versus retail. Did they
That
go
happened
to
a
the
while
board?
ago, but before this administration, that they were allowed to have downstairs tap room.
So they went to the planning board?
I don't know what the procedure was, because I wasn't here then, but yeah, they do have approvals for downstairs tasting room. So
I think April would know if they had to go before the planning board.
do you remember that, April?
No, I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so-
same, because in the same building, I had questioned, it was the painting place or whatever, and then it became JB Couture Cupcakes. So again, I had questioned, were they asked to go before the planning board when they went from a painting place to food? So retail versus restaurant, commercial, however, any, you know, they want to say dining, whatever it is. Some places have to go before the board and some people don't.
I know I discussed this with Mr. Dasty when the inception started, that we knew they bought Jack's Tavern and they were going to move it over to the Beach House Brewery, the license.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Dasty, if you could just chime in. I know we talked about it and you said it didn't have to go before planning board because it's already zoned that way.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Renner. My understanding of it is that this will be a permitted use in the zone. And therefore it is a permitted use. I mean, the zoning officer may have to issue a zoning permit somewhere down the line, but if it is a permitted use, and I don't think it would need to go to the planning.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is I own a building on Main Street and I was put through hell to go from, it had a food place at one time, it was retail, and they made me go before the board numerous times to get approval for it to become a restaurant. So that's why I'm curious, how come, I mean, I'm all for it, you know, if it's zoned, that was my whole point when I had to go, was it was zoned for it. It's ridiculous that, you know, people have to go. But I don't think it's fair to put me through that and then other people, you know, well, it's zoned for it, it's okay. I understand there's a new thing, but the law is the law, you know, and the interpretation of the law, I'm curious how Mr. Dasty sees the interpretation differently than it was done in the past.
I don't want to talk for Mr. Dasty, but I think if it was an expanded use, then it would have to go to the planning board. So because it's not an expanded use, they're using everything.
Mr. Renner, can you hear me?
Zoned for the occupancy. I don't think that's why it didn't have to go, but I'm not sure. Mr. Dasty, if you could just.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry, Ms. Renner. I only heard part of what you said because I got thrown off. Can you say that again, please? About your facility, and I missed the rest of it. I'm sorry.
Well, basically, like
Can you ask it again, please?
Okay, I think what the answer I'm getting is because we have a new administration, a new lawyer, you interpreted the law, I'm saying differently than say the previous person who put me through hell, you know, going before the board numerous times with, you know, outrageous fees to pay, because even though it was zoned, that was my whole point from day one. It's zoned commercial, it's zoned for a restaurant, it was zoned for retail. And yet, you know, I had to sit there for, you know, they put us through hell to open up, to switch over, which at one time it even was food. And, you know, so if you're interpreting it different, I understand that. I guess I just feel slighted that, you know, when I had asked those exact same questions, it was reversed.
I had just said, Mr. Dasty, that if it was an expanded use, that they were going to expand the use of it, then it would have to go to planning board, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It would need a new site plan approval or whatever it might take. Yeah, that's correct, your mayor. I see this kind of a situation.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry for your difficulty, Ms. Renner.
Yeah, in the exact same building, and that's what I questioned. I had asked April a little while ago. It was a painting place, and in the same exact building, they allowed the cupcakes, JB Couture. And again, I want them to succeed. I'm not against any businesses opening up or whatever, but it just threw me off that why, you know, you could go again from a painting place to selling a bakery. It's a bakery or cupcake thing. And then I went down the line. I think I found 15 businesses, and that did not have to go before the board, but I did. And so I don't know what the reason for that was at the time, but I was always curious. But now after tonight hearing again that someone else didn't have to go, it's kind of strange to me. But I'm glad to hear it's not as hard as they made it out to be a while ago.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Am I on?
Yes, hi, Joan. Say your name and address, please.
Joan Corralo, A Street. Resolution 2020-137. Change order for 12th Avenue Improvement Project. An increase $59,000, whatever. Is that because you're going to do the 1 and 200 block on 12th Avenue with repaving, or is it for the work that was done and you owe more money?
It's a decrease, Joan. We save money.
I thought it said increase.
No, it's a decrease of 59,000. We saved a little bit of money.
Oh, well, I'm glad we did that. When are you going to do the 100 and the 200 block?
It's coming. Because of COVID, it's a little bit behind schedule, but we should be getting to it soon.
All right. Well, I guess maybe I need new glasses.
I think there was a version out there where it said increase and it was typoed. And
Yeah, I saw the same thing.
Thank you. That
you're not
was my-
crazy.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Okay, seeing no other hands up there, April, we'll
Motion to close the public session.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You want to table one first?
We can do that when we get to it.
Uh,
Motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda.
I actually have one question just on the housing authority appointments. Are those reappointments?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make the motion.
So we're just doing up to the liquor licenses?
So if we're gonna do them separate. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
yes.
Next, we have a series of resolutions that I think Councilman Brennan is going to recuse from. Okay, so first one is Resolution 2012-142. This is authorized renewal of the Waterview and Riverview Pavilion liquor license. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'm gonna make the motion.
Second.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Next is resolution to allow the state to renew the club license for the Belmar Fishing Club. We have a motion to approve.
Motion.
We can vote on.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not
Yes,
voting on the
so-
liquor license.
So this is to allow the state to renew it because the majority of the council are members, so you can vote on this resolution.
Okay,
So I think Councilman Carvelli made the motion.
I'll second.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Next is to renew the resolution for MBLIQ LLC. We have a motion to approve.
Is this this is the Jack's license, right?
This is the Jack's license, so we're gonna renew it, and
It
at
stays
the
in
next
place.
meeting, we're gonna transfer it.
So you have to renew it first and then move it? Okay. That's
Yeah.
fine. Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
And then next, a motion to table resolution 2020-145.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Okay, next we have second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2029. This is an ordinance to establish a cap bank. This is part of the budget process. If anyone from the public would like to comment on this ordinance, please click the raise hand button. Okay, seeing none, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-29.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Next, we have first reading and introduction on ordinance 2020-30. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 16, section 18. This is the fees for police department services. We have a motion to offer for first reading.
Motion.
And a
Second.
Councilman Brennan? Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Next is first reading and introduction of ordinance 2020-31, and ordinance amending chapter 33, portable storage units and dumpsters. We have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Brennan,
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli,
Yes.
Councilman McCracken,
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer.
Yes.
And lastly, we have first reading and introduction of ordinance 2020-32, amending ordinance chapter 44 stormwater control.
I'll definitely make that motion.
Do a second.
Second.
Councilman Brennan,
I'm going to vote yes, and I just want to say before I do, I was so thrilled to see this ordinance on the agenda because this is something we've been needing to do for a really long time. Our stormwater management plan was not complete, and I really have to congratulate the business administrator and our engineers for coming up with, it's a great plan. I looked at the whole thing. It's really a great plan. So definitely yes.
Councilman Carvelli,
Yes.
Councilman McCracken,
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer.
Yes. Okay, public session. Anybody has any questions for the council? Okay, Linda, go ahead. Name and address.
Good evening. Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue. I want to thank the mayor and council and everybody who's working to keep our town safe for everything you've done. I also want to say hello to my friends on 5th Avenue if you're listening. I have a number of questions and I hope you could bear with me as we walk through them. One is about the fees for beach badges. If there have been a number of reports of what the other towns are charging, and we are the lowest for both daily badges as well as seasonal ones. And one of the few that doesn't have a charge for 12 or older. So I was wondering, is there any consideration to increasing the rates for dailies moving forward?
Yeah, well, yes, well, we're talking to our beach director, Jeff, he definitely wants to lower the beach badge age because of the problems that we're having over on 8th Avenue with all these kids coming on that are saying that they're 16 years old when we know they're not. So he's looking at that. We're also looking at different ways to handle the beach badges for next summer. As you know, we only have 7 weeks to go. So even if we put something in place now to change the rates, it probably wouldn't hit until late August. So, but we're going to definitely take a serious hard look at it soon. Before Jeff finishes up for the year, we'll have a plan in place. We're actually talking to a couple vendors now on how to change how we deal with beach badges for more online and credit card and a lot of touchless stuff we're taking a look at. So we've been talking to vendors and we're going to make the change altogether.
Thank you, Mayor. My second question is about the revenue for beach badges. A number of you have commented on it, but haven't given specifics. What is the amount of revenue that we've taken in through June 30th for the dailies, seniors, and seasonal?
I don't have the figures in front of me, but I think between seasonal and daily, we're probably up about 800,000. So, but you know, I don't have.
And how does it compare to I know we started early, so I would imagine it's significantly greater.
Yeah. So, you know, and people don't have anywhere to go. There's no cruise ships going. People are not flying. Their vacations have been canceled. So, you know, where are they coming? They're coming down to the beach. And even when we were charging from Memorial Day on and the other beaches were free, we still had packed beaches where people were paying. You know, we just couldn't figure it out. But so they come in the 195 corridor. If you come down the Parkway, we're probably the closest beach to the Parkway once they come off the Parkway. So, and Belmar's been crowded ever since I can remember. So it's a little extra crowded. we stopped everything else for the summer as far as any kind of organized things, because we knew we presumed that there were going to be big crowds because there was no place else for everybody to go, and then try to control the social distancing.
I don't think anybody could argue about the size of the crowds. Thank you. My next question is, Lake Como is going out touting that they're lowering their taxes. Have we underpriced our services to Lake Como? I mean, it's kind of disheartening to see they're going down and we're going up. Would anybody like to comment?
Thank you card. All I'm going to say is they better send us a thank you card. But, you know, it was the last administration. There's contracts in place that we can't do anything about. So I'm not really going to comment too much on that. I mean, they're contracts, and we have to honor what was put in place.
Okay, so I only have 2 more questions. Oh, actually 3. Signage on 10th Avenue. I brought that up on the physical therapy place. It doesn't seem to me that having windows completely covered with signs has ever been part of our signage for businesses. Has anybody checked into that? Because I asked this question before, so I don't know. I thought it was a construction issue.
Well, it's really a code enforcement issue, and we did look into it. Ed Kirshen, our Belmar administrator, and you want to just give us an update, or you know more about it than I do? I know they looked into it.
We're still looking through. It's a new business down there. I know that Frank Sinelli has met with the owner down there, and I really will have to get an answer from him tomorrow. I actually forget what had occurred with those signages, with those being blocked out. But Linda, I'll get an answer for you tomorrow.
Okay.
April has a little bit of information on it. April, you want to just chime in on that, what she knows about it?
The ordinance actually doesn't say anything about it. But they were spoken to about it, and they were claiming HIPAA regulations allow them to do that. And I think that was something we were going to look into further.
Well, I could understand adhering to HIPAA regulations, but they could put shades on the windows like many of the other businesses have, as opposed to, I mean, that's our corridor to the town. It's I think, very offensive. And if everybody did that, we would really be in trouble. So if there isn't an ordinance, I think we have to work to fine tune what we have. So, but I know we'll wait to hear from you, Ed. Thank you. We had mentioned the transfer of Jack's liquor license. Have any plans been established for Jack's in that building?
We haven't heard what the intent is for that building. We're just waiting to find out, but we don't have any indication of what they're going to utilize that building for.
Okay. And my last question, I see Pat Wan joined us. I hope you're feeling well, Pat. I was calling, my question to you is, when are we having an ADA meeting? Most of the year has gone by without one.
Can you hear me now? Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, Pat.
Sorry, I've been here for a while, but I haven't been able to get in. Sorry about that. We're going to try and have an ADA meeting because all of us are kind of high risk, and the weather's nice now. We can be outside. We'll try and have our meeting outside. We've been collecting equipment. I know I have some walkers and things that I have in my garage, actually, for ADA, and a scooter for somebody who has a foot operation. We have an extra scooter. So we've been collecting things, but we'll get on track, Linda. It's coming up.
But Pat, we could do Zoom meetings like the other groups have been doing. And
well, we have some people who, I don't want to say this, we just have some people that really would rather be in public. It would be better if we met together. I'll explain to you later. We'll do it in person.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you for staying with me. Appreciate
you.
your responses.
John, go ahead. Just state your name and address, please.
John Walsh Senior, B Street, 1101B.
Hi, John.
How are you? I'm calling about the Ocean Avenue parking. For one, there's not one sign how much the rate is and for how long it is along the whole thing. I know they have a sign that says, go to this app, but some people don't know how to do that. I called the number, and that number really isn't much help. And the other part of that is, I found out from somebody else, unbeknownst to me, that after 7 o'clock from 14th to Spring Lake, that the money goes up to $2 an hour till 2 o'clock in the morning. I find that offensive, being that this is one town and we have half the town paying till 2 o'clock in the morning if we want to go to Mama Luke's or DJ's or the food court, and then we could go down the other side of town and after 7 o'clock, there's nothing going on. And somebody will go, oh yeah, that's so easy, just go to the app. Well, there's an old saying, it's so easy a kid could do it. Well, bring a kid, because I can't figure it out. Is there any comment on why it's up till 2 o'clock in the morning? I mean, that's not fair for surfers, fishermen, anybody who wants to go to eat. But if you go to the other side of town, that's fair.
Well, believe it or not, it's not for Mama Luke's or DJs or anything like that, because a lot of people walk there, and Uber is bringing people down there. It's just that we considered that part of town at night, a lot of the groups and people like that were parking along the boardwalk. So we consider it premium parking. There is free parking all over the rest of the town, but if they want to go to premium parking, and the other side of town basically doesn't have a lot of parking down there, but we could make it all to 2 in the morning.
You know what? I've actually went to the other towns that pay for parking, which is Point Pleasant, Bradley Beach, and Asbury Park. And all of them have signs when it's the park till, and it's on the kiosk. I know we don't have a kiosk, but Asbury Park has the kiosk, and they still have when time you're parking to. I walk on the boardwalk all the time. I see people tell them, no, you don't got, yeah, you got to put money in. They don't even know. I mean, it's not right for people to come down here, and it's like buyer beware. They don't know. They think it's till 7 o'clock. There should be signs put up. In Asbury, if you push the kiosk, they'll tell you that the beach is sold out. So you don't pay 8 hours of parking to get to the beach and then told that it's sold out. I mean, these are just things and that was changed because my friend changed it. I know everything is new, but I mean, we're supposed to be inclusive, and the beach is supposed to be a cheap date, as they say. And we're knocking people over the head. At least put signs up to tell them what they're in for. That's a common courtesy.
Yeah, we're going to take all your comments into consideration, and we're looking into that, because it was, even when we put it down around Marina Grill, we had to paint it in the street, but I'm sure by next summer we're going to be able to tighten it all up and get it straightened out.
Okay, one other thing is this is safety, is that the life rings along the beach, they're not there this year. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's the lifeguard's decision.
They were on post, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. They were on post, and I was one of the people years ago that suggested putting him there because I saw a guy drown. And if we had a life ring, that person could have lived. And they were there up until last year. And with the people coming down and staying to the beach till all hours, I mean, they're there at 10 o'clock. You see them walking off the beach. Now, more than ever, they should be there. We're talking about.
I don't believe they were there last year. I might be mistaken, but I didn't think they were on the beach for 2 years now.
Well, I know every avenue had them after the girls drowned. We must have them.
I'll have to talk to the chief
The
lifeguard.
post in the
There
ground.
was something with those life rings, and believe me, I'm not a lifeguard, so I don't know the whole situation on them, but I'll have to find out.
Okay, I mean, we have them unless they threw them out. I mean, that's something, like I said, there's people here till all hours of the night, and that could save somebody's life. And like I said, it was actually a cop went out and got the guy, and he wound up being dead. He didn't make it. So
Yeah, I know Bradley Beach had them, and I don't think they have them either anymore, so I don't know what the issue was with them.
okay. All right, well, thank you very much, and thank you for looking into it.
Thank you. Hi, you're on. I just don't know who you are, so please state your name and address.
Sorry, my name is Nancy DiLorenzo. I'm on 17th Avenue. So I just,
Nancy.
hello. So I just want to, first of all, thank Chief Scott because she's done an amazing job. You know, I do live on the south end and I have seen a pretty significant difference, but we continue to have issues with noise. We have one house in particular by us. I keep calling the police just like we've been instructed. They come and then a half hour later, these kids, they have no respect for the police. They have no respect for the residents. They continue to play loud music and yell profanities. And it's just frustrating. My goddaughter was with me this weekend and I had to have her go in the house because of all the profanities they were yelling. So I just don't understand that with zero tolerance, like what else can we do? Like, I feel like I'm a prisoner in my house.
Well, what I can tell you to do is, I'm not going to ask you the address here, but if you can call into the police department and give the address, because we do have places that have been frequent flyer, for a better word, violators of our ordinances are put on a list. And that's what our plainclothes guys are concentrating on. So if you call into the police department or one of your community policing people, let them know what the address is and they'll go on the list.
And so then what happens? I know they already have a summons because obviously the summons is public. So like, where do they get to the point where they have like their CO revoked or like what is the consequences to them?
Well, the issue because of COVID-19, our court systems are not up and operational. So this is the problem we're having this summer because normally noise tickets are on the next available court date. We cannot take action against them unless they are convicted in court, and then we could make them an animal house. The problem is all these summonses that have been giving out is they're stacking up in the courts because we don't have the courts are in operation. The only thing the courts are in operation for is the major stuff. So it's frustrating for us too. It's frustrating for the police department because these things, we're hoping to have the court system up by August and we can start going through some of these things and get them convicted. But this COVID-19 has been a challenging summer for us. There's a lot of different things that can't go on because of it. And this is one of the problems we have is the court system.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. And listen, I do appreciate.
Nancy, Pat, can you text me or email me the address of this house, p1@belmar.com? I will forward it to the community policing and on to the chief if you could do that.
I will do that. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for all you guys have done. I do appreciate it.
Nancy, I do
Thank
believe
you.
that house is already on the list, but I will advise the patrols that are out this weekend again of that address.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Very, very much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, you're on. Please state your name and address, please.
Sure. Good evening. This is Jerry Buckafusco. I'm at 409 Fifth Avenue. I just have a request. In light of the next meeting, in which we'll be dealing with the budget, I really would like to see the administration do something in the area of providing a budget narrative, covering, a number of basic issues so that the public can get a greater understanding of what the budget's being used for. I mean, right now we have the paper, we have the numbers, but there's nothing explaining what those numbers are doing. For example, what are the goals of the administration? What are the strategies of this administration? How does the budget and the numbers in the budget reflect those goals? Revenue. Is there any concern about revenue for the next year, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic? It would be nice to see a discussion about the borough debt or the capital plan, or why certain appropriations are increasing. I think there's a lot of reasons behind the numbers, and I don't think that the public gets to view any of that when we're just looking at basically a spreadsheet with numbers on it. So I really would like to see something come out within the next 2 weeks that kind of explains to people what the budget is. Because right now we just have the numbers, and I don't think they're really showing people what's happening. So that's my request, and if it can be done, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I'll talk to the CFO. I know that everybody's going to be here before we pass the budget to go through it, but I'll see if she could, I'll talk to her about it.
Thank you.
Okay, you're up. Just give me your name and address, please.
Sherry Russo, 1218 Briarwood Road.
Hi.
Hi. My question, as I talked about last meeting, was how much are you increasing municipal property taxes by in the proposed 2020 budget?
I believe I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe on a $500,000 house, it's going up about $100 the way the budget sits right now.
And you don't know what percent that is?
I don't have anything in front of me.
And will you have a percent for next time?
Yeah. Well, all the professionals will be here to talk about the budget. They'll have the percentages.
All right, only because last meeting we had talked about this meeting. All right, that was all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, you're next. Name and address, please.
Vicky Renner, 1106 D Street, Belmar. So, hi. Okay, so just real quick, I was going to go over Linda Sharkus brought up signage, which again, I had no intentions of saying anything, but there is a pamphlet, a booklet, or rules and regulations, because I was on the sign committee many moons ago. I'll see if I have it, but unless a lot of things have changed, you could not cover up an entire window. It was not allowed because for number one, for the police, like say when Rite Aid was there and their windows had signage in it with the people's faces, or whatever, you, as a police officer going by, you were supposed to be able to look into any place on Main Street and make sure everything was safe. You were able to visually. So covering up an entire window, I've never heard of that either. But then again, unless things have changed, blinking signs, things that say those blinking open, close, that type of stuff. We had an ordinance against that. You could not have those blinking signs so that it was a visual distraction. You also weren't allowed to have, which I brought up, I don't know how long ago, the school sign that was erected at Belmar Elementary, and in fact, the town sign itself on 35 with all the pictures and the information and everything. When that was erected, and we had an ordinance that you could not do that because the town at that time was trying to go towards, you weren't even allowed backlit signs. And once they start popping up, people don't really follow through and say, oh, I thought we weren't allowed to do that. Or if whoever changes, being the head of something, no one follows through on the ordinances that we have or that we created. So I will look to see if I have the book on it, on the rules and regulations, and see, how it was formed and the things that the town, we had, goals we were trying to achieve. But my main question again came up, which I did speak to Tina Scott over, a few days ago. And we brought up, I got to speak to her about all my concerns when the road was done and how after the mistake was painted on the road, it turns out that, right from the beginning, 50 feet from the stop sign, they ended up coming and painting 50 feet back, completely erasing the spot that was agreed on by Eric Lieb, who was sent down in place of Tina that day. But after speaking to Tina, we also realized that obviously this was approved many years ago, the grant, just like now you're gonna have A and B paved on 12th Avenue. And I just think, one, we have a borough engineer, and whatever things are being done up to date, like our road, he should have reviewed that blueprint and signed off on it, whether it's again or whatever, because things changed. And there's inconsistencies with the driveways. Some people are saying, oh my God, I can't get out of my driveway. The line is right up to my driveway. It's 6 inches. Another neighbor is saying mine's 1.5 feet. There was nothing to regulate what the town wants from every single driveway. So people asked me about it. I said, I'll go on again tonight and see if I get answers. And with the yellow lines, I have a neighbor, she's trying to get on. She couldn't get on, somehow she's on her phone. And it's where the, I believe the fire hydrant on C Street is. She's asking me if when they come in to paint the yellow line, because people keep parking there. And, sitting out in front of your porch and people coming up, yes, some people will continue to park on a yellow line, even though they're not supposed to. But again, we're short of money and they get the ticket. They don't really get towed anymore like they used to. So when you got a ticket, you were immediately towed, and you learn your lesson not to park on yellow, and it stops it. So I don't think really that's being done. And then Michael Allen, I was told, is now the person, or was the person, in charge of the striping, and he's went to school for it. He has all the rules and regulations for consistency. So he was sent out to change 2 things around here with the yellow. But again, when the street is newly paved, and if someone would have signed off to make sure everything was correct, and then someone from the borough would have been here, maybe it is the engineer, is down here when the job is finished, to follow through to say, now if the town is in charge of painting the yellow lines, we have it systematically lined up. If it was paved on Monday, that week, the town has to go in and finish paving.
Yes, you're buying, I'll take one.
Pardon me? Somebody said something, I don't know. But so the inconsistencies, the follow-up, it's just like on the planning board. When you approve something on the planning board and you make all these stipulations, that's you're getting this approval upon this. it was never anybody's job when you gave the CO or the finished thing to say, here's the checklist of everything you were supposed to do in order for you to be granted this approval. So I see this as the same situation with the road. When it was paved, it was done. I guess they weren't in charge of some of the yellow, so now the town is in charge of the yellow, but then Michael Allen has to be contacted because he has to say what's correct because there's so many different versions out there. I mean, this isn't rocket scientist stuff. You say if it's 50 feet from the stop sign, it's 50 feet. If it's 25, if it's 2 feet from each driveway, you do it 2 feet from each driveway. So you have A and B, 12th Avenue coming up. And I hope when that happens, it's a smoother transition than this was. And they did a good job. But, you know, my neighbor now is not speaking to me across the street because I called up to get the white line and he thinks I asked for everything to be painted yellow, which I did not. So he said, because of my actions, we lost a parking space. So he made phone calls now to get it changed to whatever. And he was told he got a complaint. And a resident here should not have to complain to get something done and then be the bad guy or the fall guy because things were not done correctly to begin with.
Okay, I got it. I know we had this conversation a lot, so we'll watch it for the next time.
Yeah, okay. So I hope the girl gets on that wants to speak because on 14th and B, I don't know if all of you are aware or not, but because of a yellow line that was not clear, a car pulled up to park there. The woman sitting on the front porch told the people nicely, be careful, you could get a ticket or towed. They jumped and mugged her. And she was taken to the hospital and she's out of work for 2 months because she was being nice, telling somebody they could get a ticket. So I think Belmar residents are nice. And I think when we don't want to see people purposely get ticketed or towed, but you know, on the other hand, you know, you're just trying to help. Maybe it's a young kid or an older kid. You don't want them to get a ticket, but our things aren't clear to people that don't live here. And markings, or the other guy said signage, whatever it has to, I'm not for a bunch of signs everywhere, but I do believe if you're going to give somebody a ticket for parking on yellow, it should be a clear space and, you know, have it done so that it's not issues and someone in town that lives here doesn't get hurt like she did.
Okay, thanks, Vic. Hey, Tom, just state your name and address, please.
Tom Volker, 527 8th Avenue, Belmar. I wondered, well, number one, benches. I understand now there's a few more sides to this through hearing what you guys have been discussing. But I'm just hoping you can find your way to add a few benches, if not, certainly not all the benches, but older guys like me really love those benches. So if you just keep that in your plans. I assume you have no plans on putting back benches until, oh, I don't know what your plans are. What are they?
Well, I mean, we have to really watch the social distancing. That's why the benches come off so that, you know, we can divide the boardwalk up. But I know we've had older people that want those benches back, but then that's what causes the non-social distancing. So
Yep.
It's a double-edged sword for us. We're trying to get through this summer. Hopefully they can be back sooner than later.
Okay. Thank you for, you know, at least listening to that. We worked the polls on this week, me and 3 other people, and we were like fish out of water because they had changed the procedures and we were trying to get them figured up in time for opening the polls. And I just want to mention that April was extremely helpful in giving us some critical phone numbers, especially when we had to close down I don't know if you know, but they were testing a new voting machine. And so there was a meeting in Freehold. which I attended, but we really didn't do any hands-on stuff. So we went to shut down the computer, and of course we screwed up, and it wouldn't shut down. So again, April was able to give us a phone number of a fellow in the voting machine area who was able to talk us through getting that machine cut down. So kudos to April. I wanted you to know that. The other thing I'm concerned about, it seemed to me that are more cars with bombs going off when they accelerate, extremely noisy, and it helped hearing Chief Scott's information about the warrants that were being issued, although frustrated by your comments that they're languishing in the courts, which has to be frustrating to the chief and her officers. But I'm in connection with that. I'm assuming that the neighborhood meetings have been canceled for a while, the zone 1 and zone 2 and 3 and 4, or are they still in process? Because I haven't heard anything for 8th Avenue. Can anybody comment on that?
I know I've attended a few of them. Pat?
Yeah, we had the last meeting we had for the North, and 2 weeks ago, Tom. I'm sorry if you missed it.
Yeah,
If,
I had
if
no
you
way
want,
of knowing.
Tom, if you want, I'll give you a call and we can catch up on everything if that's
Great, Pat.
okay.
Thank you. That would help
Okay,
a
you're
lot.
welcome.
Okay. Kudos to our guys to keep the beach clean. They look fantastic considering all the people we're handling. It's just amazing that they're able to keep up with it. That is it. Did you have anything?
No, just.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot for your efforts. I know it's a struggle for all of us. And
Thanks, Tom.
have a nice evening.
Mhm. Joyce? Yes, you're on. Go ahead. Name and address, please. Joyce? Name and address?
Do you have something to say?
No, I don't.
Okay, your hand was up.
No, you hit it.
Si, name and
Hey, how's
address.
it going, guys? I just got a couple little things.
Just
One
name and
first-
address first, please, Si.
Oh, sure. Cy Reitmeyer, 405th Ave, Belmar, New Jersey.
Hi, Si.
First, I'd like to echo what Jerry had said, that, a little more transparency with respect to the budget, and also whether you guys have reconsidered the composition of the financial committee, predicated on my suggestion that I made, at the last council meeting, that it should have comprised, more than, just 2 people from the community, assuming that, one of them is related to one of the people on the council. But, if you can give me a response to that, that'd be great.
Hey, Si, so, that's obviously my dad. And I guess I'm wondering what your concern is for that. Why are
Well, Councilman, my concern would be that, I think that the, committee ought to be comprised of impartial people, and that I think that, you have conversations, obviously, with, whether it be a brother, a sister, a cousin, or whatever the case may be, that the town would be better served with someone who is not related to somebody else who's on the committee, because consequently, you may get, two opinions that are one of the same. But that's just my opinion. I don't want to beat this to death. But I just wanted to know whether or not the council has, reconsidered the composition of the committee. That's the main thing.
Sorry, this is brand new. There'll be changes to it, but we're going to get it off the ground, and we'll get together. We'll make the changes. We haven't even had a meeting yet, so we didn't even consider anything yet. So once we start sitting down and having meetings, it'll involve just like planning board, zoning board, and you'll have your shot at it.
All right, but the thing is that the budget hasn't been approved yet. So why can't the financial committee get involved in this year's budget?
Well, it's not only about the budget side. We have contracts coming up that they could sit down and look at costing out contracts. There's so many things in the borough. It's not just going to be about the budget. If you think that they're going to put a budget together, that's not happening.
No, but I think they would have input.
No, they're not really going to have input. They'll talk to the CFO about costing out different things and maybe making changes that having some eyes on it. We have a lot of things that will be coming up that are side things compared to the budget. Our CFO and our financial team are excellent, and they're not going to put a budget together, but they're going to look at different parts of different things that go on in the town financially.
Okay.
And
all right.
They're going to sit down and price things out. So once we get the committee together, it'll have a lot of changes to it.
Okay. I want to also echo Linda's point that, in my opinion, that, Bradley Beach is at $13 for a daily badge and we're at $9 for a daily badge. And consequently, what's happened with everything that's going on with COVID-19, I mean, we've been inundated. It's an invasion here. Despite what Councilman Brennan may think with respect to it only being on the south end of town, I mean, by 8:30 in the morning, you can't find a place to park, on the north end of town. I mean, it's just insane, what everybody's dealing with up here. But you
think we're unique to that? Take a ride around at all these beaches. They are
Avon closes their beaches when they get to a certain amount. Bradley closes them when they get to a certain amount. We just let everybody in. We move them.
So that's what you
all we do is we
violate the public trust doctrine.
We move people from 13th to 9th, and I got to tell you that the lifeguard situation this year has been spectacular. The police force this year has been incredible, and I'm going to lead into that in just a minute. But Mr. Mayor, I ride a bike a lot, and when are the bikes going to be allowed back on the boardwalk again?
As soon as we can control social distancing, it'll be the same as the benches.
Okay. All right. Street sweeper, Mr. Campbell. When's the street sweeper going to come back on, C and 5th?
It's on the website, so I don't know what the.
All right, it's been a couple weeks. And I'm not saying that for me. I'm saying that for my neighbor whose son is getting married tonight, and he asked me to say that. So.
And again, we're there. We sweep 7 days a week. We stick to the schedule, and if we can get there because of parking or cars on the street, we do that side. But we sweep 7 days a week. We're the only town that does that.
Okay, Councilman McCracklin, the Shade Tree Commission. What are their responsibilities?
I mean, I think the ordinance. Sorry. I mean, I think side the ordinance is 7 or 8 pages. And, we can certainly send you a copy of that to review. Like I've reported, there is a subcommittee of the Shade Tree Commission that's looking to make improvements to that organ.
Are there people?
Modernize it. But essentially, the Shade Tree is part of the Shade Tree Federation and part of Tree City USA. and it's to improve quality of life in municipalities for the residents who live there by making sure that there's a good balance of trees and neighborhoods, and that trees are well maintained, dangerous trees are removed, and healthy trees are planted.
Well, that's my question. The question that I have is that there's 2 trees that are on Fifth Avenue, you know, that are ultimately going to die. You know, they're already dead at the top of the trees. You know, and I understand that the town owns the tree. I understand that, you know, despite what the attorney says, is that, you know, you have an easement for that tree. But, you know, the fact that, you know, there's 2 trees on the corner of Fifth, one on the east side of Fifth and C, and one on the west side of Fifth and C, that the tops are dying, you know, and the entire tree is going to die of some, you know, are they responsible for like monitoring the condition of a tree, or are they just into planting trees?
Well, the members of the Shade Tree Commission aren't directly responsible for monitoring the health of trees, but when people report concerns to the Shade Tree Commission, we work in conjunction with the Department of Public Works. Now, I mean, there is a misconception. I don't know exactly where these trees are, but if it is in the town right-of-way, doesn't mean the town owns or is responsible for that tree. The homeowner or the property owner is still responsible for pruning that tree, removing it, or replacing it. But to get approval, because it's in the right-of-way, an application must be filed, and it goes through the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay, define right away.
Pardon me?
Define right away.
Well, I mean, Jerry Ardasti, our attorney, would be better off to do that, but my
Mr.
understanding
Reitmeyer,
is there is a
Yeah.
right-of-way in municipalities that's based off
Well,
the
he's
center
the guy.
line of the road to a certain point, and typically that includes the space between the sidewalk and the curb.
Yeah, Mr. Reitmeyer, if I could, the paved area of a street is not normally the only part that the town owns. They usually own either 5 or 10 feet on each side of the pavement. That's the right of way. That's still owned by the town.
That's not true. You have an easement to that. You don't own it. You have an easement to it.
No, that's not
You
correct.
don't own it. I own it.
That's not correct, sir.
Well, that's totally correct.
All right.
That's
Okay.
totally correct. You have an easement to it. Look it up. Anyway, all right, let's get off that. The gym on Main Street that you, apparently somebody had passed, you know, the approval for that. I don't know whether it was the planning board, the zoning board. I don't know, you know, who was responsible for it, but there's a new gym that's on the corner of Main Street and Fifth Avenue. And obviously because of, you know, COVID-19, you know, they're limited in terms of what they can do inside, but now they're overtaking the sidewalk. You know, you can't even walk down the sidewalk without having to, like, you know, go between exercise equipment, you know, to walk from A to B. I mean, how does that allowed to happen? I mean, you know, they rent the space inside a building. They don't rent the space for public walkways.
Hey, Si, I stopped there the other day. We told them that they couldn't use that public walkway. And I had just had heard that they were out again tonight, so we'll visit them again tomorrow.
You know, I went by there today, you know, and, you know, they're on the street in machines.
We'll
You know,
be there
and
tomorrow.
I'm on my bike wearing a mask. And
We'll be
these
there
people
tomorrow.
are on a machine, you know, just like, you know, working out. You know, it's just not the right thing for, you know, for us to go to. Last but not least, how's the meter going for the water? The water meter's up on the beach now? Okay, all right, good. And last but not least, I want to send out some accolades to the chief of police, because I will tell you that this season has been a nightmare with parking. You know, to the point where, you know, I've had people park on the apron of my driveway. I've had people park illegally to the corner of the street. And not once did anyone get a ticket until I initiated the call. And as soon as I initiated the call, the officers were there in a heartbeat, and they issued a ticket every time I called. And when I say how many times I called, I must have called 8 times in the last 4 weeks. The guys have been terrific. My suggestion, this is only a suggestion coming from a law enforcement family, is that there ought to be some patrols, that are, designated out in 4 different zones throughout town that ride around town and tell these people that are disrespectful to the law and to what we should do in terms of parking and give them tickets. Because the only way they're getting tickets now
Hey,
is.
Si, was it blocking your driveway?
Oh, yeah, I had a car 2 feet in my driveway.
The problem is you could block your own driveway. That's why you have to call on a driveway.
Oh, I know. Even on the street, though, Mayor. Even on the street. I mean,
No, that's what I'm talking about. You could block your own driveway on the street. So that's why you have to call, because the homeowner has to call so that they know it's not your car.
What if it's not the in the apron? What if it's on the corner in a place that says no parking?
Oh, no, that's fine. Now then they get ticketed. And there is patrols out there for that.
Well, I tell you, every time that I called, I had to call because, I thought that, and the thing that, really kind of frustrates me a little bit the most is that, we're just losing all this revenue to these people, that just disrespect the law. If we took, there's 2 specials that walk the boardwalk together every day. If we took one of those specials and we put them on a bicycle and put them on the street, the town would get income, and we would be teaching people a lesson not to disrespect the town. There's no reason why there's 2 special ones on the boardwalk, whereas they could be out there generating income for the town and at the same time showing that people are being disrespectful. And I think
they all have assignments to do. They could be part of the social distancing task force on the beach, but you can't just single out those guys that are on there because they do have assignments. They could be walking to the safety building. So you can't just say, oh, I saw 2 specials on there, we're gonna put them on bikes and give tickets, because they all have assignments. I don't want to step on the chief, but
and again, I think that they do a great. And again, I think that the guys do. All in all, I think the guys do a great job. I mean, and I'm a big advocate of Blue Lives Matter, and I think that the Belmar PD does an amazing job. I'm just trying to offer a suggestion, to get the town some revenue, because it's rampant here. I'm looking at a guy outside my kitchen right now who's changing in front of my house. I mean, literally physically changing. An hour ago, I had a guy who set up a tent and had his whole family changing in a tent on my lawn. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. I think that there should be some kind of reassessment. But overall, again, I will support the boys in blue and the men in blue for as long as I live. But there is definitely a problem, not only on the south end of town, but there is a problem too on the north end of town. And with that, I say to you guys, I bid you farewell, and you got to put up with me sometimes, that's all.
Thanks.
All right, take it easy.
Please state your name and address.
Hi, Sharon Russell, 11th Avenue, Belmar.
Hi.
Hi, how is everyone? Just a couple of comments. I've noticed more and more this year, and I'm sure everyone else has noticed the same thing. Sunday night into Monday morning, there's just an overabundance of garbage that's being left by our wonderful visitors. Is there any way, and I don't know, this is just a suggestion, where there could be some designated spots on either some intersections where garbage cans could be? I mean, I know they come and pick up garbage on certain days, but it's just, I mean, when you walk and you just see it, they basically just open their doors, drop their garbage and leave. And, you know, as I'm walking my dog, I try to pick up as much as I can, but it's sad. It's sad. So I didn't know if there were any things that can be done about that.
Yeah, it's all over. I mean, I got to pick up the garbage on my lawn every morning, and there's a can right across the street. So I feel for you, because I got to do it every morning also. But
yeah, basically, yeah.
Consideration.
Okay, yeah, it was just a thought, you know, maybe the kind of cans that we have like on the corners of Main Street that have like the grating around them so they don't get knocked over and so on. So that was just a thought. When I've been walking on the boardwalk, especially on the weekends, a couple of people have asked me and I didn't know the answer. I know that the drone goes up at certain times. Is there like a set schedule? Is it only on weekends? Like people ask me and I'm like, I don't know. I know it goes up, but I don't know any more than that.
It goes up as needed. Once we start seeing an influx of people on our beach, we get the fire marshal out there with his crew to put the drone up. So we try to get it up as much as possible. We have a limited amount of staff that can work it right now. Sometimes we're on other assignments with code and other enforcement aspects. So we get up as much as possible so we have a clear indication of what's going on with the beach. But we also use people in the designated zones, and we use the Crow's Public Safety Complex on 10th and Ocean. So we have a visual up there, and we have people in each zone on the beach.
Okay, great. And my last thing is not is not a question, but rather a comment. I'm pleased to announce that we're going to be starting with the E Street pickup at the public library, Belmar Public Library on 10th and E. The pickup is going to be on E Street, I believe. Hopefully it will be starting next week, but we're waiting to get the final approval. And that will mean that people will be able to, I'm reading off of the website right now, you can request books, audiobooks, DVDs from the library and get them through a countless method of curbside pickup. All the details and instructions on how to get books, audiobooks, DVDs, while the library is inside closed, you just use the little link that says E Street Pickup and you'll be able to request your items. So I'm so happy. So hopefully that'll happen soon.
All right. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Hi, Kelly. State your name and address, please.
Hi, Kelly Lang, 301 19th Avenue. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kelly.
Just a quick question. Actually, it's for Chief Scott. The past week, every night between 11:30, we've had fireworks being set off on our street. And by the time we all get up and try to find the people who are doing this, they're gone. So and they're pretty intense. They're not firecrackers. They're like the fireworks that shoot up into the sky. It's a little scary. So I was just wondering, Chief, if there's any way that maybe we could get some extra patrol cars down here around that time to kind of help out. We're not really sure what to do. And, you know, by the time we call, they're gone already, but it's been very frustrating and it is a nightly occurrence.
Yes, it's actually happening all over. I have it on my street as well, all hours of the night where I live. I know that there was a lot of enforcement over the holiday weekend. I believe 15 or 16 summonses were issued. The issue is catching them in the act of actually, you know, lighting the fireworks. But I definitely pass that on to the patrols to make sure that there's people in the area.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Hi, you're on. Name and address, please.
Oh, hi, this is Lynn Amari on 317 12th Avenue.
Hi.
Hi, I had a really hard time getting onto the call tonight, so I'll just actually ask you a question first. Is the town taking any actions against the neighboring towns that are really limiting their beach badges to the point of causing the excess here?
Well, that'll be up to the Attorney General's office. But the governor made it clear that if we had room on our beach, you cannot, we can't violate the public trust doctrine. So, and there's been problems with that in the past. So as long as we have room on our beach and we can control social distancing, we can't stop people from coming. I can't tell you what the other towns are going to do, but it'll be up to the Attorney General's office to look into what they're doing.
Okay, so that's, I guess, what I'm asking. Have we initiated anything? I do believe, let me just say this, I do believe that we don't own the ocean. I support the public trust document. I think anybody who wants to go to the beach should be able to go to the beach. I have been going to Spring Lake on the weekends and the mornings. It is shocking. There were 6 people on the north end at lunchtime last week, and they told an elderly gentleman with a cane to walk into Belmar to get on the beach. It was awful. So I have filed a citizen services complaint with the Attorney General's office, but I did not know if the town was taking any kind of action to initiate something against the other beaches, because it is
I'll say
appalling to me.
the public would have to do that. A town can't take action against another town. We have to worry about our own town. So if you get.
But our town is being overrun. I mean, I applaud the efforts on the beach this summer, but I don't think people have been very well behaved when they're off the beach. It has been, I've seen people urinating on the sidewalks. Trash is everywhere. So I do, I guess, also would like to know about the yellow lines on 12th Avenue and when the curbs will be redone. It's people have been parking everywhere, and I do see from my porch, some of them are honestly trying to figure out if it's a parking space or not. And it's hard to know unless you know the town. And I'd also like to know if there's any thought to, during the summer season, substantially increasing the parking fines, because the folks coming in from Manhattan, for them, they don't care. They view it as parking that they're paying for.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's up to the court system and the judge. We don't set fines, the court does. So, but we'll talk to him about it. Anything else?
No, that's it. Just about when anything we can do to help in getting the yellow lines done on 12th Avenue, the curbs. Is that something that can be done as a community project?
Well, DPW's doing the work on that, and they're continuing to work on that all over town. So they'll get to it and they'll take a look at it.
Okay, because it's a big problem on C Street. They're between 11th and 12th. They're just everywhere, and the cars are going to have a hard time turning.
Call in the address to DPW tomorrow. We keep a list, and then we go out on anybody that calls, and we tackle what we can.
Okay, and then finally, I have called in on occasion for cars parked where they're not supposed to be. Is that the only process? Is there a way to just go online or something in an app or something to report it, or do we just have to call the police department?
I would just call. It's the fastest way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Vic.
Hi, okay, so I see the neighbor up the street had asked me, was able to get through, so she just got through when I was waiting, but she had asked me about the $65 parking amount, and like she said, the people we were told said they don't mind paying a ticket, because to them that's like paying for parking when they go anywhere else. So that's like
Yeah, we'll talk to the court system, but the court sets the prices. We don't set the prices for fines.
I was wondering, what we were wondering when we said about towing, is it something we want to ticket and tow to get the amount up, or we don't really want to tow that much?
Well, we tow where it's needed. I know that, but the chief would have to answer that.
Usually we only tow if the vehicle is blocking the vision of vehicle coming either way, if it's obstructing the view.
Okay.
Other than that, we usually don't. And on the weekends, it's very difficult to get the tow truck out. We would have them out constantly, but usually it's just issued a summons, and then if it's if it's obstructing the view from any of the corners, that's when we tow it.
We still do all of D Street, right?
Yes.
Yeah, on
Everything on
ours,
D Street
yeah,
is
since
towed.
they changed it, because that's for fire, first aid and fire. So again, these lines keep coming up, but the other neighbor had asked me where their driveway is and their white line was. The tires have to be within the white line. So when your tire is in the line, then the guy that was parked there had a pickup or a giant SUV, however you want to call it, with a back bed or whatever, and 2 feet of it, his tires were in there, but 2 feet of it overhung into the driveway area. So
That's when you have to call the police department.
Right.
Driveway, a blocked driveway, you have to call into the police department. They will come down and make the judgment call if they can't get in or out.
Right.
Because you are allowed to block your own driveway.
Right.
So that's why you have to call on a driveway.
Okay. All right, I'll tell them.
All right, thanks, Vic. Mr. Kramer, name and address, please.
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue.
How you doing, Mr. Kramer?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. About 12th Avenue, and I'm glad to hear that we had a change order to reduce the contract by $59,000. One thing I noticed, the work on 12th Avenue, I guess I have a question. It doesn't appear that any concrete gutter was constructed on 12th Avenue. And I believe that's the town standard. Is that the reason why the contract came out to be lower than what was budgeted?
I have no idea. It was all the engineer, what the engineer's plans and everything were to get that done. So I have no idea why it was reduced to 59,000. We'll have to talk to the engineer.
Yeah, I guess what I want to say is that the concrete gutter is a superior design. And I believe the town standard was changed a number of years ago, that the roadways be constructed with the concrete gutter. You'll get a lot more life out of a roadway with the concrete gutter. Because when you have ice forming, it forms where the water is at. And likewise, it makes it easier for the Department of Public Works to operate the, the street sweeper. I guess what I find kind of confusing here in town is that we have a number of streets, older streets like here on 4th Avenue. There is no concrete gutter. But if I go up to the end of 4th at Inlet Terrace, they have a nice concrete gutter out in front of their homes, and the roadway will last a lot longer. And also, there's other streets in town that were constructed with concrete gutter in modern times.
Okay, well, we'll have to discuss with the engineer. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, that might play into this whole business of the layout of the traffic markings and parking markings. I do want to report, like everybody else, there literally is not a public parking space on a sunny day west of C Street. And I just say that because I live on C Street and I could find a parking space here in my own driveway. But I don't know why we don't expand, all that public parking is the asset of the borough. And if I think we should look seriously at monetizing that asset to generate as much revenue as possible. And, you know, I don't have an inventory of how many thousands or hundreds of parking spaces that there are on the streets in town, but they're all owned owned by the borough, and the borough should have complete control of that. And I think that asset should be managed to the benefit of the taxpayers. That's about my only comment, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mr. Kramer. Si, you missed me already?
Yeah, I do. Si, 405th Ave, Belmar. You know, I just wanted to send out, you know, some accolades to Mike Campbell. You know, I had called in, there was a sinkhole in front of my house like a week ago, and I saw that it was a pretty intense sinkhole. And within hours, you know, it was coned off, and within days it was taken care of. You know, he really did a great job with it. But my question for Mike is that one of my neighbors that's at 408 Fifth Avenue, there's now a caution barrel in front of his house because he has a sinkhole as well. So is there a, Mike, is there a problem with Fifth Avenue in terms of a sinkhole?
We had Oswald come in. It's an outside company to camera it. We did it this week, I think on Wednesday or Tuesday. And they found some of the connections for the terracotta pipe, which is about 100 years old, have some infiltration. So we're now getting a price to get that resolved. It's not a collapse problem. It's not an issue. It's just an issue of the terracotta where the joints come together. Some of them have some infiltration of dirt. So that's why we had the two small sinkholes. He's aware of that also. We told him about it, and he was also happy with how quick the water department got over there.
I tell you, you guys did a terrific job. You really did. I was just concerned whether or not I was going to go out and see, you know, C Street cave in, you know, but, or Fifth Avenue cave in for that matter, but you could do a great job. And I just wanted to, you know, throw that out to you. I really appreciate the fact that you responded so quickly.
Nope, they do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Si. Hi, Joan.
Hi, Joan Corallo, A Street. Here we go with an old subject, ball playing on the beach. Have we changed our order this year? I know you made a statement at the beginning of the season, absolutely no ball playing. Have we eased up on that? I've had at least 3 occasions where I have spoken directly to the police officers, special ones, walking by because somebody's playing ball, maybe right behind me kind of thing. And I was told that, oh, that's not the rule, no ball playing. You know what I mean? That they've eased up on it. And if it's not busy, they can play ball. So am I on the wrong page?
Yes. There is no ball playing on the beach.
Well, then
So
maybe,
we'll have to reiterate that to the specials.
so maybe somebody has to tell the specials, you know, because I don't get in an argument with them, but it's very frustrating that you call them out on it and they don't stop the ball playing. So if you get somebody,
We have some brand new specials that just got out of the academy. They don't know all the rules and regulations yet, but we'll have to, the chief will take care of that. Make sure that they know that.
okay, that's one thing. Second thing, I realize we have a problem with the bike racks on the beach. The fact that, I mean, on the boardwalk, that they're not there and people are putting their bikes all over the place. Okay, I get it. But it's become a problem going onto the beach, going up the ramp, going up the steps, because they put their bicycles on the handrail that you need to hold on to when you're going down or walking, up the ramp. So it's a safety issue. And I don't know who can do anything about that, but I've mentioned it. Yes, I've mentioned it more than once to the gatekeeper, and it's true, they can't do anything about it. And she says, oh yeah, you should see it by the end of the day, it's just loaded. But if you want to put your hand on the rail to go down the steps or walk up the walkway, you can't, because there's bicycles on it. So it's a safety issue. Okay?
Chief will take a look at that too.
I know you got your plate full, but I just added a little more on it.
Oh, thanks, Joan.
Thanks, guys. You're trying.
All right.
You're doing it. You got a hard road to ride on. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Joan. Okay.
One more.
No, we don't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address, please.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Maria Rondinaro, 1246 Pine Tree Way. I was starting to think you all forgot about me because there were several people who spoke twice, and I was feeling bad over here, but I'm glad that I'm on. I'm encouraged to hear about the Verizon meeting for 5G, Mayor. And I'm hoping, can we still have that August date as a time that we can have online beach sales? I know at last.
This August?
Yeah, maybe.
We're going to have the meeting in August about what kind of polls they're going to propose, but it won't be till next summer by the time they get them all in.
Oh man, that stinks, because I remember last year at this time, actually even before this time, we were talking about that same very meeting happening by next summer. And 2 meetings ago, you had all agreed that it really wasn't smart to wait until next year for some of this, because we're in a crisis right now.
Well, COVID showed up and put everything on the back burner. We were trying to have it done for this year. They came in with some poll designs that we were unacceptable. So they're narrowing it down to what would be acceptable on the beach. And then COVID hit, so they couldn't everything got shut down. So we'll have it for next summer.
I'm hoping we can get some money back because this would be COVID prevention, having that cash handling and having people lining up for ticket sales. That's just not smart during a pandemic.
That's why we moved booths all over the place to try to separate it all. But
yeah, I know
what we have.
2 meetings ago, though, you said that they were hoping by August, that they wouldn't be able to get it done by August. And I said,
that's not true.
And
we were talking to Hopewell. We were going to have the finalization meeting by August, but we knew it wasn't going to happen anytime this summer.
Well, maybe it wasn't about then Verizon, but it was certainly about having where you can have mobile beach badges. We were talking about having that type of technology. Hopefully,
well, we're still talking to vendors about that. But the problem is with COVID, we can't have live meetings. So we're doing everything by the phone, and they have to come down here and demonstrate it. Yeah. And there's about 3 or 4 companies that we're taking a look at, but they won't come down here and demonstrate it until the pandemic's over and they can have live showings of it.
Yeah, I feel you on the live meetings. Actually, I'd like to request that the next community policing meeting be outside and distanced. I unfortunately was not able to attend because it was not an outside meeting for our last meeting. I don't know whether Councilwoman
we did have an outside meeting in your area because I was there.
Yeah. I was not aware. I was told that there was going to be a meeting and it was going to be inside the courtroom. And I responded back that unfortunately I would not be able to attend. So maybe I was just left out of that one too. Anyway, yeah, I'll check into it with my, our zone chief. I was encouraged to see that the governor has a new law about masks outside when social distancing isn't possible. I must be going to the wrong beach because what I see on the boardwalk is a lot of people. And I'm especially worried about the lines on the boardwalk, the lines outside of Playa. These lines are not being distanced and people are not wearing masks. And I'm wondering what the new mandate will have as far as requirement and enforcement now.
We're trying to figure it out ourselves.
The governor doesn't.
Are you serious?
What's that?
Are you serious? I mean, are you
Well,
serious?
we're
Is
in
that not
discussions
something
with the
that's been
governor's
down
office
the line?
because he put it out there that if you can't social distance, so does that mean people could sit next to each other on the beach as long as they have masks on? Or can they stand together at a bar as long as they have masks on? So we're trying to get clarification.
So let me explain what it means. It means if you can avoid if you can be socially distant, then you don't have to wear your mask. So if you're
Right,
in
that's how we figure it.
if you're in the same family or you're in the same household, you can be together without your mask. I don't see the problem on the beach. People seem to be distant and respectful on the beach. It is on the boardwalk. It is on the lines. That is where, and it is certainly in the establishments waiting to get in the establishments. This is where the issue lies. COVID is not leaving us anytime soon. We are still in this crisis. We are all together as a United States. We're not out of this because we are in New Jersey. And I would like to know what will, we've been told that no, people aren't, enforcing the masks. And now we have a mandate for it. So I would think that's coming right from the top about lines.
Okay, well, we're telling our friendship force that they either have to be 6 foot apart on the lines or they got to wear a mask.
I mean, if you have a government mandate, doesn't that go above friendship force?
It's also been
It's
told
what?
to the specials that are on the beachfront and walking by the businesses. They were told this morning that if there's anybody in line that does not have a mask on, that they're there to tell them that they have to have a mask on or they have to be removed from the line.
Thank you, Chief Scott. Thank you very much. That is exactly what I want to hear. It is so important that we keep our community safe. Above all things, it is important we keep our community safe. And I'm glad that that's being enforced by police officers, because that's the job of our police force, not our friendship force. Our friendship force is a volunteer group that are doing a wonderful job. They certainly can help, but it should be the job of police officers so that we don't get the FU people and we don't get, people coming up to us and challenging us. It's not okay. Thank you.
What else we got? Okay, let's close it out.
Can I have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.